Hello, my name is Michael Melfi. I'm a partner with Taylor English and Taylor English's GC. In this video, I'm going to describe what is equity compensation. So let's dive right in and get started. I think the first thing that's going to always get asked is, what is equity compensation? Equity compensation is typically some type of ownership, some type of vesting piece of ownership that sits in a company that's given to someone who's doing work that's not getting paid traditional salaries. And so when you think about that, what are the different types? A lot of times you'll see that you'll get a straight equity. You'll get stock or you'll get units in an entity. Other things may be options that you can get, and those would be like a stock option. You'll hear that talked about. You can have a profits interest. A lot of times you'll see that with an LLC, some type of profits interest. Less often I'll see phantom type of ownership that is given, typically in an LLC type situation. Another one sometimes can be, although not often, typically associated with some type of financing, would be some type of warrant. That's not per se equity, but it is in a sort that you would receive. And so those are some of the different types of equity compensation. I think what's important to understand about each of those, and we'll dive into details more in a future video, is that you typically don't just hand someone something. You typically tie it up. You typically want to make sure there's a fair exchange of value that's given. When you think about it, you wouldn't just outright, if I said, I'm going to bake you a cake, I'd hope you wouldn't just give me all the money for baking the cake. You typically give me the money maybe to buy the ingredients. Maybe when you see the cakes being baked, you give me some more. And when I deliver it to your house, you give me the rest. Or some other type of financing terms. Think about a house. Most of the time, you don't give all the money up front. You pay some money for the land. You typically put a deposit down, pay for some of the soft costs. And as the project gets completed, you pay more. That's pretty standard. Why should the exchange of services or value between a company and an individual or another entity be any different? That's what vesting is all about. It's typically set up on a scale. I'll do another video where we dive into detail about what is a cliff and how do you do it and all those kind of things. But for the most part, what you have to understand is there's different types of equity, and you can, but not always, vest it. The one important thing to ask is, why vest it? For what I just shared with you is, if I'm going to hire an executive or a manager or a technology director, and that technology director comes aboard and is supposed to produce a result and help my company get to certain milestones. If the relationship doesn't work out one of the ways, or the milestones aren't hit, I, as the company, need to be able to have that equity to go find the next person in line. Because I'm using that equity typically in lieu of money because I'm not paying market rate, or I'm trying to get someone whose probably skill set is beyond what I can afford right now. So that's why it's so important. The last thing I would say is when you think about the legal requirements around this, it all needs to be documented. Definitely. There are tax implications to this. You're going to want to have a tax opinion. You're going to hear about someone talking about an 83B. You're going to hear about all types of tax implications to the transaction. You need to make sure you take that into consideration. You need to make sure you have a professional look at that. When it gets to being an option pool or it gets to being an equity compensation, there's often employment type issues that come up. You're going to want to have a professional. So, a lot of times early stage companies just kind of split up the pie and just do whatever. I did a great video about splitting up equity. When you start doing that, you really want to talk to a professional about that. Setting up the entity is one thing. Equity compensation is a whole nother beast that shouldn't be taken lightly, because if done wrong, can have serious impacts, not just financially, but can ultimately have impacts on the valuation and how you compensate what could be and probably are your key team members. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation, learned a little more about equity compensation, and discussing a little bit about what structure is best for you. Make sure you reach out to someone. We have a great team here at Taylor English that can help you with this. Until the next video, I look forward to seeing you then.